We're going to give it a couple of more minutes to let everyone join. So if you want to stand by, we'll be right with you. Okay, we're going to get going. Welcome everyone to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us for AI Unlocked, Boosting HR and Operations Efficiency. This is being presented by my friends over at Forest City Digital. I'm Stacy Bigelow, CEO of the Advanced Group, and we're proud to offer this opportunity to talk to David and Jeff about one of the most exciting and rapidly evolving topics impacting all of our work worlds, artificial intelligence. So AI is no longer that buzzword. It's reshaping how we do our work every single day, whether it's streamlining workflows or planning elf on the shelf shenanigans, as I learned yesterday.
Yes.
We even have life hacks. So I'm really anxious to have this session today using a crawl, walk, and run approach. So regardless of where you're at with AI, no technical experience is necessary. So I'm even allowed in this session, which is great. I do have a few housekeeping items that I wanted to share before we get started. The webinar is being recorded, so I will have it available to you later this week. Please use the chat. If you have any questions, we'll be monitoring those and answer those along the way. And we'll also save some time at the end to be able to talk to you about those questions you may have. And whether you're new to AI or you're really ready to take it to the next level, we're excited for Jeff and David to tell you all about it. So I will have you guys take it away.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm sure most of you are watching from the Toledo, Detroit, tri-state area. So actually, David Kava, he just goes by Kava to us. So both of us kind of surround you guys. So we're an agency out of Cleveland, Ohio, and Kava's actually out of Chicago. So we cover both sides of probably where you're watching this. So yeah, we're excited to get going on this. Thank you so much. As Stacy said, I mean, honestly, this is super informal. So if we're talking about something and you have just this burning question in mind on that particular slide, please put that in chat. She'll stop us. It's okay. Like it's really important because a lot of times we'll say something, we won't remember what we say. Maybe it sounds good, maybe it doesn't, and it just sparks a question. So we'll be cognizant of the time that you guys are spending in here, but we'll get through what we need to do and make sure you guys are just have, whether it's lowest common denominator, whether it's you guys are in 201, whatever that is, we can kind of cover this. And just really exciting that there's all this stuff happening right now. So it's crazy. AI is becoming just commonplace. So I'm a Gen Xer. I'm just learning about a lot of this stuff. We've been doing this. David's mostly the one that's been really on AI. He's our director of AI and SEO, and so we use AI for our agency. We use AI for our clients, like Advanced Group. We use AI for everything, honestly, and we give presentations around AI just to anybody, around what to do with it. So we'll try to be as descriptive as we can. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of cool things that you can do with it. And even one thing where we made fun of our CEO, where he bought us really large backpacks. And this was actually in ChatGPT. David put this together and gave light, light description of us. And I think it went and grabbed LinkedIn and everything else. And sadly, I have probably a better look than I have right now on. And this was what happened when you put it together. So it was pretty cool how lifelike, and this was just ChatGPT. So I mean, a lot of the things can be done right there. I know David will go through a lot of the different platforms and everything. Every day there's probably 15 happening right now, if not 15,000. So it is cool. Like even little things like that, you can have fun with with the CEO of our agency and just get that out and how lifelike it looks. So and I think the backpacks actually look pretty lifelike. So I can show you on the side. They are large, and he does not like when I mention that all the time, but what are you gonna do? So who we are, just real quick. We focus in performance marketing. So we've got a couple niches of our business around e-commerce, so direct to consumer brands. We work with staffing brands. We also work with manufacturing. And some other ones we'll do SaaS here and there, but our cores are really those. And our agencies, it's not, what we try to do is we try to grab owners of agencies, experts, technicians. Everything moves fast, and marketing moves fast. Technology obviously moves fast. So we're trying to work with our clients and educate as well as move fast with how the market's going. So we focus on those that have done it before, that are, experiential. They understand what's going on, and then we bring them in and into the agency and really focus on helping our clients grow faster. We've got an AI forward approach. So that is one thing you'll hear David talk about all sorts of stuff around, what you can do and all the ideas. And honestly, to his point, anything can be automated and probably anything can be AI'd in terms of what we want to do, at least imagined, if not executed. So we focus a lot on automation and efficiency. How can we do more with less? And technology's there for the taking. It's just a matter of what you can do with it. So I'm going to turn it over to David since he knows a lot of these brands more than I do. So take it away, man.
Okay, perfect. So the state of AI, what's happening, and really the big thing that's been happening for, I would say about a year now, is that there are just too many tools out there, right? We can look at this list and there's a tool for just about everything, for text, design, video, productivity, presentations, research. There's so many. And a lot of them are just a cash grab. In the back end, most of them are maybe just ChatGPT behind the scenes that they're overcharging you for. And that's really the issue. You have to shuffle through all these tools to find which ones are actually going to fulfill the promise that they're telling you. Because most of them, you'll use them, you'll go, this is not what I imagined at all. And so you have to cut through all of the fluff, do a lot of trials, spend a lot of money, and figure out what's actually going to work for you, what you can actually put into your process, and not just force it into your process because you want to say that you're using AI in your business, because that happens a lot. There is AI fatigue where you have a tool for this, a tool for that. End of the day, you're not any more productive than you were before. You're just using fun and cool tools. And that's what we want to avoid. A lot of tools out there. And it's, our job to show you which ones actually get the job really well. We've had a lot of trial and error, right? And also thinking about your process as a whole and where, each tool could actually work for you. So basically lots of tools, very hard to find the ones that actually do work and figure out how to put them into your process.
And our perspective obviously is marketing, marketing, sales. Obviously this presentation is focused on HR and ops, and we will give you examples of how we've worked with clients here and there on different ways of using AI in their native processes. But AI is from the manufacturing floor to the corner office. So everything, I'm sure you've seen Copilot, 4 million tools used, are named Copilot. And there's, AI is the undertone of something. So yeah, it's the Wild West right now. Regulation is pretty much slim to none. Anybody is building anything, and as long as you get some marketing, wave to it, like people are buying it. So I think OpenAI just closed like the largest seat, or the largest, what was it, Series C fund round in, like, I think the history of the world. Like I think it was like in the billions, hundreds of billions or something like that. So it's just it's crazy how many people are riding this. So, and then on that, like we use it in our agency. So, and that's actually because of David and what he's done.
Yeah, and as Jeff was saying, it's like, how can we use ChatGPT to do more with less, right? How fast and efficient can we be to do more work for our clients per month than other agencies out there? That's what we want to do. That's our goal, and that's what we're striving towards every single day. And so I will provide some of these examples here so you can think about your process and how you might be able to use what we're doing in your business. So the first one, the biggest one by far, is using Fireflies. And Fireflies is an AI meeting note taker. There are many out there. We actually tried Fireflies as I think one of the first ones, and we just stuck with it because it's done everything that we wanted. But I'm sure there's others out there that are also great. What it does, it just records calls, audio, and video. It has a transcript. It gives you summaries. It'll record action items based on who's talking. You'll have all that information. You'll have words per minute, even who's the slowest talker, who's the fastest talker. It gives you a bunch of information and feedback. And the cool thing is, you can go into the chatbot per meeting and you don't have to think about what happened during that meeting. What were my actions? You can go in there and say, what was said about X topic? What were the main things that this person mentioned? Did we mention anything about this and that? And it'll read the transcript and it'll tell you exactly what was going on there. So it's very powerful to go back instead of trying to think of like what was talked about last week, because it'll all be there for you. And to the next point, I kind of mentioned it was the task integration. And so you'll say, I'll do this, I'll do that, you take care of this. They'll take note of that and it can just put that straight into Fireflies. You can shoot it over to your project management suite or whatever you're using, a to-do list, and have that ready to go. So you don't have to take notes, pen and paper. You can actually focus on the conversation and not miss anything. That's one of the things that we do as well.
Yeah.
Another good one is client prep. You may have weekly or monthly calls with clients or internal ones for one-on-ones. And this will be an automatic email a couple hours before that meeting happens. And it'll say, hey, listen, this is what you talked about last time. These are the actions you said you would take that you might not have, right? So you have some time to catch up and get those things done and look good for your meeting. And so that is the automation part of that is fantastic because you don't have to remember to go back into the app and say, hey, what did we talk about? So it really helps you stay true and honest to your word and make sure that that meeting is actually productive. You're not just talking about the same things week after week. And the next one is, mind mapping for content plans. Something that we do for our clients is do a brain dump and just downloading all that information from their heads, tribal knowledge, maybe things that they're not mentioning on their website. We get it out of them by just asking why 5 times, right? I think the way Jeff and Kenny mentioned it is being like an annoying 5-year-old, asking why 5 times and getting to the root cause of it. And so we talk for an hour and a half with our clients. We build out a physical mind map on a Miro board. We take that transcript from that, we put it into ChatGPT, and we ask them with a detailed prompt, create a content plan for us, right? What are the pillars? What are the clusters? What things are we talking about? Ends up being that we're creating content that is exactly what the client wants to talk about. We obviously mix that from an SEO perspective, right? I'm the director of SEO. I care about ranking those articles, so I spin in some keyword research in there as well. So we're writing content that gets traffic, and it's also what the client wants to talk about. But there's a lot of power in that versus having a 1.5 hour call and trying to remember what were all the things we were talking about. Let's create a content plan. This cuts down on hours and hours of time. And then
this one too, the mind mapping, that is one for the purposes of HR and ops. I mean, if you have issues with, your best performer on the floor does this, but it's never in an SOP. They do it their way. Somebody else does it their way in a second shift, in a third shift, or sales, their process is different than somebody else's process. This mind mapping and doing it and using AI could be translated to any department. Like, it's amazing how, like, the biggest thing right now is you're seeing baby boomers, you're seeing older Gen Xers retire at a faster rate. And so with them, a lot of times they have a ton of knowledge of how they do things, how they fix things, how they how they resolve whatever, how they do something quicker. And the problem is we've never written it down. Nothing is there. So this is a perfect example of even going verbal and having either an in-person meeting with, just your chat GPT app sitting out with the voice open and talking through those things, or having a sales meeting where you talk about what's our go-to-market strategy, or HR where you talk about, like, policy development and how are we going to enforce that. So all of these things with that whole thought around mind mapping is just that I would do that in a heartbeat if you haven't done it, because you will grab so much tribal knowledge or non-documented information that it can be put right into whatever you use. Zendesk, you use your own PM system, you anything like that. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that part of it.
Yeah, I'm heavily anti-tribal knowledge. I used to work at a 100-year-old company that never documented anything, and it was
Yeah.
the worst. No one knew how to do anything. You ask the guy that's been there for 30 years. So it
Yep.
was bad. So you want to avoid that as much as possible. And you kind of touched upon the last bullet point here for marketing strategies. Again, you have your internal calls talking about strategy of any sort. No one has to take notes. Let's just keep talking, coming up with ideas. What do you want to do? How are we going to do it? What's priority? And then take that transcript, create a prompt, and ask ChatGPT or whatever chatbot you want to use to put together the strategy for you, do some minimal editing, and it's done. So basically, the work is done after the call if you hang up from the call versus having to think about what was talked about.
Yeah, and I think and to that point, I mean, this is something we do, and I think, if there's no marketers on or you have a marketing team on this, like I would definitely share this with them where I think it's really cool to take a look at your website, feed ChatGPT or any of the ones, Claude, like whatever it is, Gemini, whatever you're using, feed it your website, like learn the website, then talk about and put some questions together about like who are your top competitors, something that you've used in your to really understand kind of your SWOT analysis and then also your competitive analysis. We do like a kickoff call, but that becomes the why. So like talk about what marketing strategy we're going to do. And then we have a 2-page template that we put all of our campaigns in and all of our marketing strategies in, that we can basically use all of these prompts and all this information to build out the strategy that we want to use for our clients. And I think that's like a huge win, because right now, marketing strategies don't need to be 50 pages. They don't need to be, they don't need to be non-existent. I think a lot of it, especially with how quickly things are moving and whatever company you're in, is you are going against, your competitors. It is highly competitive. So how are you evolving? How can you change this marketing strategy? So that's something that we do, and we take a lot of pride in that, because what we find is that the clients tend to not have a solid marketing strategy or thought out strategy. And we can just take the things that are already existing and make sure they're all working together. So again, just something of how we use it, but you can kind of input this into a lot of things that you're doing. So all right, so we wanted to walk through just the crawl, walk, run. This is kind of that 101, 201, 301. Don't know where you are in your process, in your range. If it's me, I'm like caught between 101 and 201 because, to Stacy's point, like elf on the shelf. I actually used ChatGPT to do that because I didn't want to write things all the time or buy, any sort of the elf on the shelf story or whatever. So, I mean, I'm putting it into my life around that. So, it's amazing what you can do, but I wanted to at least we'll go through kind of phases. If you were at the 101 level here, here's some phases, here's some examples that I think would work well for you. If you're doing them, great. If not, you can take some of those pieces, and then if you're going to run with it. So on the crawl side, we've mentioned a couple of these, but these are things that you should be doing already, no matter where you are in the process. So, I mean, you should be finding a way to get those meeting and interview summaries. Zoom has something. Google Meet, I think, now has something. Fireflies has something. Some have video, some don't. Some have audio. Whatever that is, it is amazing, because I used to be a note taker and I would never focus on anything because I was taking notes, or I wouldn't take notes. And then I couldn't remember 30 minutes later what I was supposed to do. And that's still the case. But what's great now is that I can go back, and I just had that. I have a client call later today, and I was like, ooh, I want to make sure I got everything done. And it's every 2 weeks. And I went through the action items. Yep, done. So having those, having something in place to make sure that you have transcripts and you have what to do, no matter what department, I think is key. You'll see this a lot. I think this is probably the easiest example. is email and SMS writing. Like, how do you do the responses? I mean, you're seeing commercials about it where Copilot will help you write, an angry response, but respectful. I take it a little step further where, like, even if on the marketing side, you're writing generationally. So Gen Xers respond differently to millennials, which respond differently to Gen Z. Some of the platforms have that built in where it'll give you a generation option. Like, do you want to do yo bro? What, or do you want to do hello? Or do you want to do hey? Or do it's even stuff like that. So understanding even, and you'll see Gmail, Outlook, even other pieces, like you'll see responses. You'll see it in your inbox where it'll give you automated responses. And that's probably the tip of the iceberg of that. But that's key. Objection prompting, I think, is huge. Like if you're in sales, even if you're in HR and you're interviewing somebody or a hiring manager is interviewing, maybe there's an objection around like taking the job offer. Or, maybe you're having a tough one-on-one conversation. You need to go objection. I don't want to do this, and here's why. How do you get around that in a respectful way? You can always use that. For our HR friends, the next two are for you. Job description optimization. The biggest thing right now is, are you selling the job? I mean, basically that's the biggest thing, whether it's Indeed, whether it's Zip, whether you're doing directly from your site. Are you selling that job, and are you doing it in a best practice fashion? And so using AI to help optimize that based off of all the inputs you give it is key. I've seen it work because we work with staffing firms. We've had to do that where we've seen the title, we've seen the job description, and it's not selling it. So if you've got your candidate that you want to go after, writing to that candidate, to that ideal candidate is key. Who are they? What do they value? What are the pieces of the job that are going to be sellable for them? And so being able to do that. Candidate pre-screen questions. So again, you could qualify them. I think we have an example of, I can't remember if we have an example of that or not, but you can do, if you've got the job description and if you've got the resume, you can kind of match that up and ask questions based off of what they already know and how they would answer this. And you can mix them up and you can do all that. I think that's key because, as you know, interviewing people, it's hit or miss. Sometimes you think you got a diamond in the rough. Sometimes people, woo, they lie. They don't actually can't do that. Even in certifications, we've seen it. They are, forklift certified, they're class A certified, whatever that is, you never know what they can say to get the job. And then, more on the easy stuff like social media planning and posting, your marketing teams just getting something out, and making sure that you can use, maybe it's a culture event, maybe it's a work anniversary, like you can do something and hey, let's put something out, and then you can basically plan it around maybe your HR calendar. You can plan it around your company calendar and get those posts going. So again, world's your oyster with some of this stuff. So these are the things that I would do if I were, on the client side and working, and obviously working within the different departments, because I think there's a lot of opportunity here to work faster and more efficiently. And then when we got the walk, so I'll start this one. We put together 5 examples, and I'm going to bounce to actually putting it into ChatGPT. That's kind of our lowest common denominator because we know everybody knows it. You can use your chat platform of choice. This is just what we do. So for this one, this is an SOP analysis. And so the quick thing here is, we put together an example of a safety manager uploads a lockout tagout SOP from 2016. They know it's out of date. They don't know exactly what's out of date. Maybe it's an old SOP, and instead of them doing OSHA, research or like looking online, making sure it's right, you could basically plug this whole thing in using this prompt and making sure that these are addressed. So what I did here, and hopefully this will pop up, is, and I'll go back up here. Hopefully everybody can see it. Kava, you can see this, right?
Yep. Might want to zoom
Okay.
in a little bit though.
Okay. Let me get in. So old school.
That's better.
Okay. So I just put in here, and again, I won't belabor this point, but we'll run through this really quick. Hi there, I'm a safety manager at a manufacturing firm, and I want to run through an example for you as I need your help. Absolutely. I'd like this to be as real of an example as I can show the power of AI and how it can help us. Can you create a lockout tagout? So assume you have an SOP. So this one, I just created it, had it create it for me. They actually chat asked me questions about like what type of equipment, plant environment, company environment. I just said make up an example and make it look like it was created back then for historical comparison. So again, this assumes you have something that you could input. So you input this. Here's what it is. It's for hydraulic press number 3 in the fabrication. It was done in April of 2016. It was approved by that safety manager. Here's the purpose, the scope, the responsibilities, the equipment, the procedures for prep, for shutdown, isolation, restoring equipment to service, training and review, and an appendix of when there was a tracking log in there. Again, you probably have all this information. So then it asked me if I want to create a printable version of this or an updated version for comparison. I said, perfect. It is 2025 right now. Analyze the following SOP and identify any inconsistencies, outdated practices, or sections that may not align with current OSHA regulations or company safety policies. Suggest edits or additions to improve clarity, compliance, and efficiency for our manufacturing environment. And I would say, and I'm sure Kava agrees with this, testing the prompt multiple times is key. The first shot usually isn't going to work. And even ChatGPT can help you with the prompt. So making sure you do this. So here's 2025 analysis. And so here are the outdated or missing practices. Here's the best practice misalignment. And this one requires annual inspection, not just a review, with documentation, clarity and efficiency opportunities, recommended additions in table format, and then here's suggested modernized language. So it'll go in and give you kind of points here of saying like, this is what you need to do and kind of filling it out for 2025, a new section to add. And then the next steps, which was cool. Do you want to rewrite the full SOP, provide a checklist version, or even create a visual SOP? And so I said, why not? Do it all. So it created the checklist. So it was here definitely in the checklist of making sure everything's here. And it created, oh, you know what? It was up here. So I think it created the document, yeah, but it was removed from there. But it actually created the updated SOP. But when I share the conversation, it removed it. So it created the SOP, created the checklist, and then a visual of the actual SOP and what to do and everything. You could probably have it branded. Whether, I'm sure that you can update this. It even has a crazy QR code built into there, but that's pretty cool. So again, one example of SOP analysis. And I think with OSHA guidelines that obviously they change every so often, like making sure that your SOPs are up to date. You could probably stuff a bunch of SOPs and say, hey, here's the new OSHA guidelines, update each one of these. And it could basically, and all you need to do is review and edit, make sure those are right. And the more precise you are with the actual guidelines, obviously the better this is going to be. So that was example 1. And I'll turn it over to Kava for predictive analysis for turnover. I'll pull
Yeah, so
this
this
one up.
was, yeah, a
Let me
fun
go
one.
here.
So with this one, the scenario is this: you're an HR leader, you have a bunch of data on employee tenure and data associated with that for the last 2 years. And you don't want to go into Excel and create a bunch of bar charts and line graphs and see and do your own predictive analysis. Take that data, drag and drop the file in the ChatGPT, and prompt it for exactly what you're looking for. And so let's take a look at the ChatGPT. Scroll all the way up.
Yep.
I did the same thing as Jeff. So I don't have that data. So I just said, hey, ChatGPT, why don't you create this fictional data here with turnover, absentee and everything else, and it created this file that may or may not look familiar to you, but it has a bunch of good information on
Yep.
employees, their tenure, active, what shift they had, everything else. So let's scroll down. So we have that data now. And now I ask it to identify all the patterns and forecast which departments are at risk of turnover in the next 3 to 6 months. And it does exactly that. It takes a look at the patterns and says, hey, HR specialist, marketing coordinator, a lot of high turnover in those roles. In these departments, there's a large chance that these might turn over. Keep scrolling. Takes a look at the average tenure per employee, correlation with being absent. Keep going down, and it gives you a forecast of the roles departments at risk. And I like that it's in a nice table. This is not a giant block of text that gets super
Yep.
boring. You can take this, export it, go to Google Docs, wherever you want to use, and use it. And it's really easy to ingest this information. Gives you a summary of everything. It asks me if I want to create a downloadable report. I don't really care for that right now. At this point, I just want it to provide me with a data-driven strategy to improve the retention, and it does that per department. And it gives me everything for the HR department, marketing department, what are the risk indicators, what's the retention strategy for it, so on and so forth. And this is 201. We're on 201 right now. What you
Yep.
can do is look up best practices and find the top 5 search results on Google and give those links to ChatGPT and say, using this research, redo the strategy for me. And so that's one step
Yep.
further to give it more information about your company or your company's website, or maybe your internal SOPs about your branding and everything else, just so this can be more tailored to you and not just generic.
And even department plans. So every department, especially like when I was in telecom, our operations team, our delivery team, they had their own department plan. So you could say like, this is our department plan. This is our delivery plan. How does this compare to that? And how can we help it out based off of what our plan looks like? And so again, just using a ton of information to, make sure that everything is working smoothly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And one thing I want to mention too is what we found for right now before ChatGPT gets better is that a long prompt isn't great. You want to do one request at a time. So
Yeah.
instead of, it's like talking to a person, just word vomiting a bunch of requests, they're going to forget. Let's do one thing at a time. Hey, please research this company. It does the research. Great. Next step, we're doing this. You get the answer and you keep going that way. That's a lot better than just dumping a file in and giving it 10 requests. It tends to give out worse responses that way at this current time.
I know. I'm guilty of that. It's like
Yeah.
multiple directions, and it always turns out terrible because I'm a typical Gen Xer, so I want to stuff like 14 requests in at one time because, and it doesn't work out right. So cool. Well then, oh, let me see. So training plans. So in this one, it's an HR coordinator, copies in a CNC operator job description, pastes a resume. So you can paste a couple different resumes in here. We just, obviously created this example for a new hire from general machining. We've got the prompt right here. And, in AI recognizes the candidate lacks experience in Mazak machines, but has strong blueprint reading skills. And what we want to come out of this is a tailored training plan, 30, 60, 90-day plan. So when I go to this, you can do it. Come on. There we go. So, so in this, I said, hi, I'm an HR coordinator at a manufacturing firm. I'd like to run through an example with you to help me out. Again, this is my Gen Xer where I got to give too much information around it. So can you first generate a general CNC operator's job description? Absolutely. So it creates this. We've got key responsibilities, qualifications, preferred skills. Again, you guys would have better ones. You'd have more precise. So then it asked me if I want to do anything else. I said, could you create a new hire's resume where the candidate lacks experience with Mazak machines, but has strong blueprint reading skills? Absolutely. Here's a sample resume of John Harris, local guy, professional summary. So he's got a CNC operator with over 2 years experience in a fast-paced manufacturing environment. Again, load it up with your own, but here's his skills. Here's his actual professional experience. I think this is his actual company too. Millwright Metalworks too. So he was an apprentice. That's an actual college. That's old Tri-C. Certifications, additional notes. Great. So this is again where I fall into the multiple one, but I think it all works together a little bit. So I won't bash myself. But now, based on this job description, the following new hires resume, generate a personalized 30-day and 90-day training plan. Make sure it includes manufacturing specific onboarding, safety requirements, skills development, and measurable milestones. So for the 30-day plan, I want to include machine safety, orientation, and mentorship. For the 90-day plan, I want to include hands-on checks, CAD software tutorials, and a review at day 60 to assess the progress. So here's the 30-day plan. So week 1, it goes into new hire, safety training, shop floor overview. Week 2 is machine safety and basic operation. Week 3 and 4 get into assisting with the setup, daily maintenance, soft skills. And so it just creates all of that. On the 90-day plan, it then adds on for 31 to 60, independent operation, troubleshooting, orientation, progress review, like we asked it at 60 days. 61 to 90 is moderate complexity jobs, setup skills, preventative maintenance, final evaluation. So again, as good as you can make the inputs, it makes this training plan. And then it gives you additional tools and support. And it said, would you want a printable checklist added to a Word doc or modified to include third shift considerations, which is important, or bilingual support? I said, let's just do a printable checklist for my files. And it created that. I will not download it because it'll kick me out of the screen I'm on. So you can be very much, I mean, this is your assistant, whether you're a supervisor, you're on the manufacturing floor, you're an HR manager, like ChatGPT and any sort of AI can truly be your assistant with what you're doing.
Jeff, I have to just tell you that we use
Yeah.
this, and we have well-written job descriptions, and that translated into well-written training plans with accountability, and shaved hours off of trying to do that manually. So I definitely encourage, if you're not doing this, it's a great thing to do, and it will give you hours back in your week.
Well, and again, if you have guidelines, if you have your own, like any sort of regulations. So, I mean, like, what is that, ISO 9001 or like any of those considerations, you can say, hey, make sure they learn this. Make sure this is a part of it. Did you know we need to follow this? I mean, again, your inputs are key in this and in tailoring the customized report. So this is one where, I mean, I've done it for marketing people. When I was on client side for the first 20 years of my career, I did this for my marketing people starting, like I had to do it myself. And it would take me, once I hired the person and then they would start in 2 to 3 to 4 weeks, I'm writing those things. And I didn't have a lot to write with. And I was making it up every single time because I didn't have a lot of that input.
Right, right. Well, and then when you go through trying to figure out what it is you have to train someone on, then that opens up a can of worms about all the SOPs that are now outdated, where
Right.
how easy is it to be able to use your personal assistant to help you keep all of that up to date? Because it's just really it's those daunting tasks, right? That nobody
Yeah.
wants to do because it's going to take too much time. It has to be done though.
Oh, I dreaded it. Like I was like, yeah, I got a new person. I'm like, oh crap, I gotta like train them and make sure like they actually do well. And you get excited, but then you're like, oh, here's 7 hours of my life, that I gotta put this together. So this is an easy one. I think this is a slam dunk, even if you already have training plans to just benchmark it, against best practice or anything else. So the next one is on feedback and coaching. So I'll let you run with this, Kava.
Yes, real-time feedback and coaching. I guess this one might be a good one if you are maybe a new manager, because this really kind of walks you through what exactly you should say. And so the scenario here is you have a few weeks worth of logs for a specific line worker who is assembling some products. And there's a very simple prompt here. Again, we're going as simple as possible here. And you're getting from ChatGPT exactly the data analysis part of it and what you should say to them to get the most out of them as far as output goes and keeping them safe. So let's go into the chat GPT conversation.
Ooh.
Or
We'll go up. There we go.
Okay, so again, I didn't have that data, right? So I asked ChatGPT to create that data, and that's what that table is below here for a specific line worker. What kind of night, what date was it, night shift, how many hours they worked, how many units they assembled, defects found, everything else. Pretty simple log file there. And so next I'm saying, hey, given these logs, what are some opportunities here for coaching? What can I say? What kind of feedback can I provide to them? And it does exactly that. The summary of their productivity, their quality, attendance, engagements. And then again, I like how easy it is to read with quote blocks here, different headings, everything else, not just a wall of text, but some talking points, exact quotes you can say, right? So if you're a new manager, you know, to think of what to say now, it says it perfectly for you. Basically found that, you know, they were increased defects during this time, potentially for some reason. What happened there? You can ask, you know, were you tired? What was something going on? Just things to see real quick that you can't see from that large data set. Reinforce safety and preventive measures, encourage a skill development. There's an action plan here below, what they can do to increase engagement, grow their skill set. And I think that was it for that one. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. And then the next one is, or the last one here of this kind of 201 example is automated performance reviews. So this one is, I guess automated is one way to put it. I think it's really more of a collection of performance reviews. So taking past reviews. And so maybe you have a copy of the last 3 quarterly feedback sessions and the metrics for a warehouse lead. And what you want to say is like, you know, you have ChatGPT scan all of the achievements. So all the positive remarks. So reduce loading times, 2 successful shift transitions, and then it creates a review based on that. So takes those different feedback points and creates a better performance review versus a lot of people have recency bias. So maybe you've had 7, you know, quarterly reviews that you've been a part of. Usually look at the last one, whether it's good or bad, and say, you know what, if it's bad, it's like, oh, here you go, you screwed up again. Or if it's good and they do something bad, or maybe their metrics aren't as good, you're like, well, they are a good performer, like we'll let it go. So it takes a little bit of the bias out of that and takes, you know, the more of a longer term view of what this is. And it can be done. And honestly, assuming you have all of this, and I'll get you the example here, but it can be done in less than 10 minutes. So maybe you want to say like, hey, you know what? I want to look at the complete body of work, and I want to see exactly like, you know, where they can improve, where they're strong. And again, instead of looking quarter to quarter, it's looking, you know, over the last 6, 7, 8, whatever that is. So in this one, I go, hi, I would like to create an example. As I'm an HR manager in a manufacturing firm, can you create a few examples of past quarterly feedback and metrics for a warehouse lead? Add in some achievements and comments from peers. And so it said, sure. Jordan Martinez is operations and warehouse. Not only did one review period, but you get the point. You could add more. Here's key responsibilities. Their KPI. So they reduced their time per truckload from 47 minutes to 39 minutes. They had 100% shift coverage. There was a 1.2% variance. They led 2 successful transitions. And so it gave me the key achievements. So you could put that again. You have 5 of them. It puts all the key achievements in. It includes peer feedback. So it basically said peer feedback, your manager's summary, development areas. And then it said, would you like a downloadable version of this one? And I said, now create a performance review for this employee based on their past reviews, goals, project outcomes, and feedback. And then highlighting all of that information. And so here's some of the reviews in there. And so it basically creates a different one here where it has a summary of their performance, their strengths, their areas of improvement, development goals, and final comments. And typically you've had to type that, you know, or maybe you have an ERP platform or something that you've at least guided questions and fields and everything else. But with ChatGPT, with any of your AI models, you can put all of that in, all of those different performance, and really get a better performance review. And then honestly, turn that into a training plan like we have it. So after that performance review, give me their performance for the last year and a half, 2 years of all the different feedback points. And then now, what do they need to be doing this year? And so I think that's really, it's just taking all those pieces of data and turning them into, just a better, more concise, um, just performance plan, and customized too. So those were the 5 examples of this. With some of these, and I think we talked about a couple of them, when you get into 301, and I mean, you can get like into 701 with some of the people. If you're on LinkedIn, you see all these people I did 48 different prompts to do this. I mean, you can get some crazy stuff. I know Kava works on a lot of those things where it's just multiple prompts, multiple. I mean, it's crazy what they can do, but we'll keep it like 301 right here. So, there's role playing. So you can do verbal chat GPT. So say you need to give a performance review and say that you're walking through what that looks like. Maybe you need to give real-time feedback. So he showed, what to say. You could actually do a role playing where you're actually talking with somebody about that. And what would they say back? What would ChatGPT tell you to say back? You can have those pieces. I've done that in sales, where I've been working with sales teams, because a lot of times it's helpful. I sent this email. I want to say this. What happens if they say this back to me? Even candidate offers. I've seen this work a lot where they give an offer and the candidate says something back like, "Well, I would like to see 10% more." What do you say back if you just said that? What would, and you could basically have ChatGPT kind of like run through it with you. This is what I would like to do if a candidate does a counter offer or something like that. Um, we've done candidate sentiment analysis. You could do any sentiment analysis, buyer sentiment analysis, interest sentiment analysis, based off of notes. So it basically just gets, video can help, the notes, anything like that that says, well, are they really engaged or not? We see this a lot on interviews with recruiters, interviews with TA, interviews with the HR manager and the hiring manager. You can see if somebody's really like, if they're just looking this way and saying, yeah, I'm really excited about this job, like obviously they're probably not. Um, Forecasting hiring trends, put a lot of data in there. It can give you sort of for your region, for your industry, messaging analysis, kind of the same as sentiment analysis. And then there's some AI tools out there, at least in the staffing and recruiting space, that do resume screening and scoring. They'll match resumes and candidates in your ATS or in your, candidate CRM with a job that's open right now and do resume matching based off of particular data points. So you're seeing that a lot in the staffing recruiting space, even in TA departments where they're scoring and trying to match and all that. So that's been kind of on the rise the last 6 months or so. So that's kind of our 1, 2, 301. Hopefully that part was helpful. In terms of just giving you the power of what AI can do and all the different things you can think about. And Kava actually, much like when we did the AI picture of the large backpacks, he can go through and he actually created this.
Yeah, I like to tell people in the worst way possible, I'm just lazy, right? So Jeff and I met to talk about this presentation, and we talked about exactly what we wanted to talk about, what scenarios we wanted to go over, that we wanted to link a chat GPT conversation, all scenario, everything possible. Took that conversation, brought into chat GPT. I said, hey, put together all the slides for me, all the content for the slides. And that was it. That was 70% of the way there. And that saved me hours of time. Copied and pasted the content, added the internal links. That was basically it. So it saved me hours of time. We already talked about it. So why not just have ChatGPT build the content for you? I'm not going to sit there and just type it all out when I've already talked about it.
Yeah, I do this a lot in like client meetings and in different things, and you could probably do it in like, whether it's management briefs. I used to have a tactical ops meeting was the one company where they wanted all that. I wish I had this for that. That was about 15 years ago. And you would just give your own departmental updates. And I would love if because I would spend hours putting the PowerPoint together, even though it was a template, and I just had to fill in the data. That would help me out. So even using this, even if it's not creating the visual, but creating the guts of what this is, and even using past presentations to then say, hey, make it a little bit different than this, or say this or reference that. Again, it's maximizing your time, and that's key.
Yeah.
um I think for us, like, I mean, again, I'm less in tune to obviously AI, just being older or whatever, so I start small. Like, I started doing funny songs. I started doing like, I was writing like reference letters. Probably not good. I won't let you know who they were for, but oh, they were heartfelt. But like, I was, you could do anything. And again, I never let it go by itself. I always tweak it to my, at least to what I'm saying and my tone. But start small with it if you're not using it. If you are using it, then keep using it and use it more. Find more ways to do it. If you're one that loves the AI tools, I wouldn't get down rabbit holes, but do enough due diligence to make sure. I mean, the biggest problem that I see, and I see this a lot with technology, is that you fit the process to the technology, not the technology to the process. And so a lot of times that's why I say think gaps first. Like, where are your gaps? Where are your issues? Your time sucks. I wish we had this. Man, we have tribal knowledge. Carl knows everything. I wish the rest of the team knew everything that Carl knew. Any of those problem points, those blockades, that's where AI can help. Just like with automation. It's the same thing. But I would definitely say solve one problem at a time and iterate from there. I'm guilty of solving 22 at a time and then actually not solving any of them, because then I'm moving on to the 23rd, the 24th, and 25th. But I've learned to focus on one, get it good, understand the prompt, move to the next. And then again, prioritize your list. So I would, like, you're either saving time or you're making money. I guess you could be reducing cost, but it's a time or money thing when it comes to AI or even automation and everything else. So that's what I would say. Hopefully you got a nugget or two of information here. Hopefully the examples were good and real world enough that you guys could get the gist of it. But yeah, we appreciate it.
I have a couple questions for you guys. This was
Sure.
awesome information. I think the examples were great and can go across a lot of different industries. I know I made some notes on some things that I want to do for an upcoming quarterly meeting that we have with the internal team. So thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So as far as trying to discover what tools are out there for whatever it is you might want to be doing, I saw that there's an AI tool directory called Futurepedia. Do you guys know anything about that?
I haven't seen that one, no. Is it a site that kind of reviews each one a bit so that you don't get, I guess, bamboozled? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, you're seeing more of those directories out now, and there's a bunch of there was one called, oh man, what was it? It was like AI Odyssey or something. This was probably 2 years ago as
Okay.
things started going. And yeah, it's basically, it's like a kayak, or Expedia. It becomes like these, kind of aggregators.
Okay. So let's say you find one, and I would just discovered, thanks to one of my colleagues, a Gamma, I think it's called, which for the
Mhm.
presentations, right? So what is the best way to learn how to utilize that quickly? Like, is it YouTube? I mean, do you guys have a go-to resource for a quick synopsis of how do I use this tool?
I think nothing beats trial and error because you really don't know the quirks of it until you mess up and go, oh, I have to prompt it to do it differently. But obviously, go through the beginning tutorials for whatever tool you're using, but to perfect it, it's going to be trial and error for sure.
Mm, okay.
For me, it's actually I'm on your boat on the YouTube. So, because I am a visual learner, I actually am nervous about using AI like to start with because that's just me. Like I'm like and I'm just that like I'm a perfectionist. I'm like I don't want to use it, then I look dumb and it doesn't work or whatever, or I waste time. So I actually try when somebody tells me, "Hey, have you used blah 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 dot AI?" I'm like, "Oh." And so I go to videos and I try to get use cases of how they're using it. And there's so much video out there.
Right.
I mean, for the most part, most tools have something, somebody's hacked it, somebody's doing it. That helps me out because then I can understand, and I usually have some use cases in mind of what I want to try to solve because I've done it for like I'm like, I need to do this. I want to create a PowerPoint where it's AI driven. Gamma is actually one that our CEO uses. And so he's used it for it's almost like, I think he used it for a pitch deck and I think he used it for something else. But yeah, I'm more video. Like I would rather watch the video and kind of consume it, and then it helps me get in there and do a little bit more.
Right. Well, I think LinkedIn has some good learning sources as
Yeah.
well. And they're really, I mean, I've been
Yep.
really impressed with some of the things that I've seen there. So that's great. And I'm really glad that you said take the information and personalize it, right? So
Mhm.
AI might have been 70% of putting that presentation together, but you tweaked it. It drives me nuts when I get a random sales email that says, I hope this email finds you well.
Finds you well. Yep.
I mean,
Pitch slap. What do
yes.
they call it? Pitch slaps. Yep.
Delete every time. So this has been
I
great. Any other life hacks that you guys have come up with? I know that I use my chat GPT on my phone, and we did an internal March Madness bracket, which I've never done before. I don't follow basketball or anything. And I was up against a time crunch of having to pick my teams, which of course I didn't want to pick because I thought I'd have to pick them. Was able to do a little bit of an eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Then I had to jump on chat and say, what is the tiebreaker score? And I gave them some prompts. And so I'm in third place right now. There's still a lot of basketball to be had, but we'll see.
nice.
I am finding that I'm using it more and more for random daily things, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I use the voice function. If you download the app on your phone or if you download the desktop app on your laptop, you have the voice function that you can use. And I find that we get kind of lazy with texting or typing, right? If you really want to ask the thing that you're asking, voice is just the best way to do it. And so I usually just use the voice option. And I've done things from diagnosing my car issues before the dealership could, health issues for my dogs and diagnosing them just based on symptoms. Like these are everyday things that really works super well. And I use it 1,000 times a day.
That's awesome. Mindy just said the grocery list can name the store, your budget, your meal plan, and it will create the grocery list for you. So
So I actually use it so I did the elf on the shelf. So
uh-huh.
don't tell my kids. And then I actually used it most recently for my tax return where I had donations and I downloaded. So there's a calculator of how much things are like it was property, like clothes and stuff like that. And so I was like, I go take the amounts here and then here's everything and create a list of like what my donation is as well as the total. And it went boom, and just I gave them exactly everything that I had as I was counting it and got because I used to do that manually. That was just me. Like I was real type A about it or whatever. But like I used it for like, hey, just yeah, like go through, count everything, assign the value that's in this website, and then total it up. So use it for everything. Grocery list too.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a great idea. That'll be a nice time save for me this weekend. But thank you so much, Jeff and David. It's
Yeah.
a pleasure working with you, and I appreciate what you've been able to bring to our clients and our prospects on today's call. Thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us, and I hope that you were able to have some take-home value for your afternoon, and you'll play with some AI tips and tricks. We are excited to announce that this is our first of our 2025 quarterly thought leadership webinar series. So we'll be tackling timely topics that matter to HR and operations leaders, from workforce planning to compliance updates and innovation and talent strategies to help you now and beyond. So keep an eye out for that. And on behalf of the Advanced Group and Forest City Digital, thank you for spending some time with us. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you the next time. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.